Welcome back, Kaiju fans, to the crisp review. Today we're going to be looking at the Bandai GAMERA 1996. This is the GAMERA from GAMERA 2, Advent Legion, Attack of Legion, whatever title you're going with of the 36 translations out there. So, starting out, we'll just take a picture of the old Bandai tag he comes with. And this is an older style tag. It's a non-flip, so it just has a front and a back. And on the front we have this pretty cool artwork of the suit with some flames in the background and different things like, oh look, it's Gamera face and his arm, and it says 96, 80 meters, 120 tons, 96 made in Japan. Oh god. And on the backside we have the old stained backside here with all the legal stuff that I can't read. But yeah, definitely cool. Older style tag, always appreciated. Has the little Dai logo up there. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And then the figure himself. Let's get right into that. So, this Gamera is in a little bit of a different position. He's in this weird kind of like hunched down position with his legs sticking out in super uncomfortable and awkward positions that you would never catch me in because I would have broken ankles if that were the case. And he's just really like bent over, and I always thought that this Gamera was like in a weird position for this figure. I mean, just like look at the way his feet are. Does that look comfortable to anyone at all? But I mean, yeah, that's okay. He's just really slouched for how tall this figure would have been if he was like actually standing up. I think that this figure is technically considered 6-inch because of how scrunched it is, but if he was standing up, this figure would be well into the 8-inch scale. So keep that in mind. This is a large figure for how short it is, if that makes sense. And we'll just go right into the painting here because that's one of the more eye-catching things about this. The figure itself is cast in this kind of like drab olive green color, very Gamera-esque. It's it's what you expect. And this is the old school painting style of spray and pray, where they kind of just took their brushes and went all over the place and figured, hey, as long as we get paint on the spots it's supposed to be, it's good. If it gets everywhere else, no problem. Where you can tell is his nails, where the nails are this, sprayed on kind of like off-white bone color. I mean, so is the webbing on his feet, and the rest of his toes are all that same color because they kind of just spray it on there. It's even worse with the other one, where it reaches up even farther, but they missed some of the toenail, and that entire side, so that's okay. No big deal. Hands, they suffer the same fate, where his fingers and hands are all yellow because of the non-care that they put into spraying that. His chest, I guess, will go there. I mean, that's got this orange. That's at least a little bit better painted. I mean, it's only in the middle that's actually painted completely. The rest of his like opening tiles for his chest cannon, his mana cannon, they're all kind of like half painted. And then obviously there's some up on his arm here, and then reaching down into his appendages. They tried. There's actually a glint of orange on the sides of his shell where, that oversprayed a bunch. In case you're wondering, on the insides of his arms, there's no paint whatsoever. On the inside of his fingers, there's no paint whatsoever. Obviously on the bottom of the feet, that's excusable because you'll never see that, but I mean, if you're going to add that much extra paint, and paint terribly, at least paint the inside of the hands too. I mean, safe bet there, it'll piss less people off. His face, we can go to that. This is where there's slight improvements. At least his teeth are all individually painted, and not his entire mouth is white, so there's actually some care in there. His tusks, they're painted on the front well enough to, it'll do. The back sides of them are not painted at all, as you can see back there if it would focus on it. But I mean, you can detect color without clarity, right? There we go. Yeah, there's no paint back there whatsoever on the back side of him, so whatever. And his eyes are, they are Gamera eyes. They're just kind of white with some honestly, That is, his pupils are the same color as his skin. So, that's kind of weird. I don't think I've ever noticed that, but yeah, his pupils are the same color as his skin. And then there's this weird, like, discolorated pink spot on his nose there. Don't really know what that's from. But, I mean, it's old. Who knows? And then, finally, there is this strange, like, metallic teal color that they just sprayed the entire backside of him with, starting from the top of his head all the way down his shell, and just everywhere, just, you know, as long as you get part of it, it's good, right? That is, I mean, older style Bandai figures, man, they have a lot of weird coloring and metallic features added, and this is definitely one of those that has that feature. I mean, I don't remember Gamera being metallic teal, unless I'm remembering wrong from some of my favorite movies of all time, but I don't really think I'm remembering the coloring wrong there. So the painting on this figure is it's something else, man. They tried. I'll give them that. They tried, and of course the pose is weird. Now he's not even using his tail for balance; it's just hovering. So who knows what's going on with this? I guess now we'll move on to the so important for many collectors, articulation. So, you know, we'll start out. His arms, well, this arm, his left arm, can go all the way around, no problems, just a rotation right there at the shoulder. Holy crap, this is an elbow with no paint on it, in case you're wondering. Anatomy. This arm is a little bit of a different story. He can rotate it. It'll get caught on his face, so you kind of have to like move it out of the way a little bit. And it will go down, and then it will run into his leg immediately. So this one's got some limitations to it. But, I mean, when's the last time you needed your Gamera in like a Texas sharpshooter pose, getting ready to reach for his revolvers, you know what I mean? So as long as you keep his arms in like a somewhat normal pose, you won't have any problems. I thought he was going to fall over there because he started to lean forward, but I forgot that his feet are the size of the moon, so that's not really going to happen. Moving on, legs will spin all the way around at the whatever that is called there for a turtle. It doesn't give you any like new posability at all because they're literally just like spinning around. So any position that's not the standard standing position is going to look completely messed up, and you're not going to be able to do any kind of like walking with this figure if you wanted to do stop motion, because yeah, that's not how things move their legs if they want to walk. That's how things move their legs if they never want to use them again. You know. Head's got some wiggle, but not really gonna go anywhere. I probably should have been glued in because that's kind of what that joint is. Something that Bandai would glue back in the day, but they didn't. So there's a little bit of wiggle there, you know, nothing crazy. And then lastly, you have the tail that can spin around. Oh boy, that's really exciting stuff right there. I think the one thing that this figure actually has going for it pretty well is that it looks like Gamera 1996. You cannot argue that that's what this Gamera is. I think the sculpting on this is probably, you know, the main appeal, is it looks correct. Sure, the coloring and the painting and the articulation might be all pretty terrible, but at least it looks like Gamera 96. I mean, you can't not love that face right there. I mean, that is the face of a happy turtle, am I right? And look at that. That looks really good for a Bandai figure, I'm not gonna lie. But I guess this was in the league when Monster Arts didn't exist, so they weren't trying to degrade the quality of the Bandai figures to incentivize you to purchase a $100+ figure as opposed to the $20 one, but that's for another time. The shell looks awesome. They put a lot of the segmenting in. Obviously there was, you know, going to be more in the film, but they did put a ton of segmentation into the shell. It looks fantastic. The top of his head's got his little fin thing going on. The tusks look great. The teeth are partially individually sculpted. Obviously, they're not like full on out in the open. It's not, you know, we're not X Plus here. but you can tell that they're individualized. The arms have all the weird flaps and folds, the fingers are all webbed. Those look great. The elbow spike is there. Sure, there's not like, 6 of them like there is in the film, but they got 1 on that side and 2 on that side, so fair enough. They're only missing like 5. The underside, his neck little flaps, those look pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. The little folding portions on his chest where the mannequin are, those look good. You can tell they're there. Obviously, they might not be painted well, but they're there. The side of him where it's like the rest of his fleshy body looks great. The inside of his shell has all the little ridges and things. His feet's so big he's blocking it, but you can tell that they put time into there. And then he's got his huge wrinkly leg portions, support that big old shell. That leg is just so messed up shaped. What were they thinking? It literally looks like his leg is broken. I don't even know. But look at that foot. That's a good foot with all of his toes pointing outwards to make it look like there's even something more wrong with him. Same with this one. Looks great. Tail's pretty basic, but it's got like the texturing on the top of it and on the sides, and then all the little wrinkles on the bottom. So that all looks pretty good. Not any complaints with the design. The detail of the sculpt, maybe the position I have issues with, like the legs and the feet, but the overall quality of the sculpt, I think that looks good. No complaints there. So I said that this figure was in a weird scale. Just to kind of show you, here's a 6-inch. I think this is the Super Gauss or Hyper. It's one of the two. It's the Super or the Hyper. I always get it mixed up. But this is the GAMERA 3 one, and look at how bulky GAMERA is in comparison to the Gauss figure. It's really just kind of wow, that's such a large figure compared to the size of the other one. So he's not really supposed to be in scale with this figure in a 6-inch line. And then even if we just swap it out for an 8-inch Gauss, then he's shorter than it, but proportionally his body almost makes sense. If he was just standing upright, this would look kind of normal, but it doesn't because of how slouched over he is. He ended up looking tiny. So thank God they considered the other toys in the line for this figure, if you know what I mean. And then just to swap him out with another, a 6-inch GAMERA, that's how big an actual 6-inch GAMERA looks, and has half of the body mass. Just look at how tiny this one is. This is the 99 GAMERA. I don't really get where they were going with this, honestly, but that's a thing. And the main reason I ended up even purchasing this figure is because I needed a GAMERA to go with this beast, and it was really the best option in my opinion. This is the X Plus EX Mother Legion. This is not in any of the 25 or 30 centimeters that most of you are probably familiar with. This is an older line that there was GAMERA figures in this scale. And, well, I thought that these two looked decent size-wise. Obviously, GAMERA could be a little bit smaller, but they look okay. I think that it looks better than the sizing of the GAMERA from this line, which is roughly around the same price, but harder to find, respectively, and comes in a little package. But, I mean, I don't know, I just liked the way this one looked more than that one for this purpose, so I thought that these two going together looked good enough for me. Obviously, the quality is off because this is an X Plus and it looks fantastic, and this is a Bandai and it looks mediocre in comparison, but that's beside the point. I think that they look fine next to each other, and that's the reason I picked it up. You can pick up the Bandai version of the Legion, and it's going to look like this same size, but with 70% of the quality reduced and all of the scary taken out. But I mean, that's always an option. They're literally the same price when you find them online. This is just ultra rare and difficult to find, but for the same price of $75, this one's probably the better choice to go with this beast if you plan on picking him up. So my final thoughts on this figure. It's standing in a really odd position. Its painting is done very half-assed, and you can really tell that they didn't care on the line what parts got paint, what parts did not get paint. The benefit is, though, the design, the sculpt, the detail put into this Bandai is pretty good. So that is like the main selling point of this. And I mean, this tag is pretty sweet to pass up. I mean, just look at that. That's pretty cool. But honestly, this figure is, you know, it's not the easiest to find. If you look for it, you'll find it. Finding it for a fair price is going to be the difficult option. I think I bought mine for $35 on Clawmark Toys. I usually don't buy anything from Clawmark Toys because of how overpriced a lot of their things are. But every once in a while, they'll have a decent deal on something. So that's when I picked him up. They're having some kind of sale last year at some point. It was the same time I picked up my 8-inch Godzilla 04 just because everything was discounted. So he was like $35 with the tag, and I thought that that was a fair price. You see him on eBay for like $50 or more. That's kind of what most people are asking for. So he's a little bit on the difficult end to actually find sometimes. But if you do really like Gamera 96, if you like Gamera 2 Advent Legion, it's one of my favorite movies. You might be able to tell from the name of my channel that it's one of my favorite movies. I needed this version of Gamera in my collection. I waited way too long, and this was just the one that I chose for vague, undescript reasons, also known as the X Plus ones are harder to find and more expensive, and not, you know, it's whatever. But if you really like Gamera, if you really like the Heisei, the 90s era Gamera films, I recommend this one. Obviously, this one is a lot easier to find, being a more like recent reissue, but I don't know. I like this one a little bit more than this one. I like this design. I like the 99 design more than the 96 one, but I think the 96 figure is better than the 99 figure, so keep that in mind. But that's going to be it for this review, guys. Let me know what you think about the awesome features of the broken leg and the bad painting on this figure, and if you actually plan on getting him, or if you have him, let me know what you think. But that's going to be it for this review. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. I appreciate it a lot. As always, liking, commenting, and sharing really helps out my channel. And make sure you're subscribed if you want to stay up to date on the latest kaiju news and crisp reviews.